Hello and welcome. This is a Football España special. I'm the editor of Football España, Alan Feehely, and I'm here today with Zach Lowy, co-founder of Breaking the Lines, one of the most reputable online football websites in the game, and a great guy to follow and to get to know. Zach is in Portugal right now, traversing the length of the country, and meeting with the great and the good of the Portuguese game. Zach, how are things in Portugal right now, and how's life in general?
Hey, thank you so much, Alan. Yeah, pleasure to be on Football España. So I'm here for hopefully the first of many. And yeah, things have been great in Portugal. Had the chance to spend pretty much the entirety, well, literally the entirety of November, in Portugal and just exploring the Lisbon area and the north. It's been absolutely amazing. Had the chance to check out some games, check out the culture, and meet quite a few interesting people. So been an absolute pleasure and definitely hope to be back here in Portugal soon.
Fantastic. Are you more comfortable with the Brazilian iteration of Portuguese or the European iteration?
uh 100% the Brazilian. I mean, definitely this time in because I started learning Portuguese 2 years ago from a Brazilian teacher, and then when I graduated from college, I asked her for a friend to help continue my Portuguese, and it was she gave me a Brazilian friend. So obviously I'm definitely more, and it's also just a lot more similar to Spanish, which obviously I knew before Portuguese. So I obviously love the Brazilian way of speaking a lot more than the Portuguese. Portuguese is a way more like fechado, a lot more closed and nasally. Um,
Exactly.
but I definitely think that being in Portugal for the past few weeks has helped me, I guess, like become accustomed to the European way. But I definitely prefer Brazilian Portuguese over Portugal Portuguese any day of the week.
Yeah, I'll be with you on that one.
Yeah.
But I guess just to kind of get to the protein, you could say, and the reason we're speaking is Benfica are playing Barcelona tomorrow evening, obviously at Camp Nou. It's a
Right.
must-win game. Benfica are third in their Champions League Group E, 2 points behind Barcelona. Barcelona are in turn 6 points behind Bayern Munich, who are the pace hitters and who are far and away the best team in the group, you could say.
Right.
So far in Benfica's campaign, they've drawn with Dynamo Kiev, beaten Barcelona, and lost twice to Bayern Munich quite heavily on both occasions. Domestically, they're third in the Primeira Liga, a point behind Sporting, and also Porto. They're a clear of Estoril Praia. I guess first off, because I know you've been to the Estadio de Luz quite recently, what do you feel the sentiment around the club is? And when you were at that game, for instance, is there a feeling that this kind of the city and the Benfica supporting elements of the city are behind the team? Are they in a good movement under Jorge Jesus? What do you think
Yeah.
exactly?
Yeah, I mean, I've been to the Lush for two games. One was Benfica's 6-1 win against Braga, and another was the Portugal's loss to Serbia. I have gone to the Luge as well to interview Sima Sabrosa and Chloe Lacasse. We just released the interview with Chloe Lacasse on Breaking the Lines, so definitely check that out, and definitely check out the Simao interview, which will be released this week. It is it is funny. I mean, I remember I was at the Benfica Braga game. I guess it must have been 2 or 3 weeks ago. It was right before international break. So yeah, I guess 2 weeks ago, and it was funny because I mean, I think Benfica scored within like 2 minutes from, I think it was Grimaldo, an ex-Barcelona player, and then Braga scored like right after that. I think in the 12th minute, and Braga had like the majority of attacks, and and literally like you could hear from the there wasn't a single Braga fan in the luge. I mean, it was all Benfica fans. You could hear from people around like, we look like Tondela, and like, come back, Franco Cervi, who I think is now at Celta Vigo. So and they're like saying, we're the most predictable team in Europe. Very pessimistic. And then of course Benfica ended up scoring like 3 goals before halftime. And then so yeah, it is. I would say it's definitely a bit mixed. I definitely think that probably right now, I think that Porto and Sporting probably have more optimism than Benfica fans, which I think is natural, but it also tells you a lot about modern football because just a month ago, Benfica were one of the only perfect teams in Europe's major leagues, right? They had won literally every single game, and culminating in that win against Barcelona, that 3-0 victory that I believe cost Ronald Koeman his job. Then they lose to Portimonense right before the October break, have an absolutely horrendous October, but managed to beat Braga 6-1 in a game that I call the Red Wedding. Like, I don't know if anybody here watches Game of Thrones, but like Lucas Verissimo, who is the defender on Benfica, ended up getting injured with a season-ending ACL injury, and I believe Nuno Sequeira on Braga also picking up with a season-ending injury that game, and João Mario as well getting injured. Rafa, Darwin Nunes. I know that Rafa Silva and Darwin both played in Benfica's cup match against Paços de Ferreira. So good to see them back. João Mario, on the other hand, I don't believe he played against Paços. So if he's not back, that could be a really big blow for them. So it is kind of interesting. I mean, I definitely think there's a lot of skepticism in the Benfica fan base of Jorge Jesus. Yes, he's achieved a lot, but is he too outdated? Has he been left in the times? Whereas with Porto, I think that yes, you do have like a lot of people who are skeptical of Sergio Conceição, but at the same time, I definitely think the majority of the fan base, people in the city, like Conceição, appreciate what he's done for the club, appreciate the fact that he's ended Benfica's reign, and I'd say the majority of them definitely support him. Whereas Sporting, I mean, of course, everybody loves Ruben Amorim for what he has achieved in such a short amount of time. So it's definitely a bit different. And I think that Benfica, the fact that they have just assembled such a great squad, with so many expensive signings, there's definitely that added pressure.
Mm. And how was the 3-0 defeat in Lisbon against Barcelona received in the Portuguese press? Because obviously Benfica are a massive club, the biggest club in Portugal, the biggest club in Lisbon, the club of the people, you could say. So they have high expectations, as you alluded to, but Barcelona are still Barcelona. So how was that kind of received, even though obviously that iteration of Barcelona, Ronald Koeman's iteration of Barcelona, the all-conquering side that we know, but did it go down very well in the press, and were people surprised by how they did, or what do you think?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, and deservedly so. I mean, even though this is probably like the worst Barcelona in 20-25 years, they still are Barcelona, and beating Barcelona, if you're a Portuguese club, is a pretty huge deal. So yeah, that was obviously picked up by all the major journals, and that really was kind of Benfica riding sky high. And I guess what you could say is the Portimonense game right after that, which they did not deserve to lose, but they still lost. And the games in October, which was like I said, a really poor October. That I'm pretty sure the only two games that they won in October, one of them was against this third division side in the cup. The other was, I think, against the newly promoted Vizela, and getting like a 98th minute winner. So and then of course, and then you had some other draws and defeats, obviously losing 2 games to Bayern. So I guess you could say that October sort of knocked Benfica back to earth, and gave them a realization that, look, you guys are not one of the best teams in Europe. You guys are on the same level as Porto and Sporting, which is not a bad place to be. But it was definitely a wake-up call. It was a long wake-up call that I think they needed. But yeah, I guess you could say that the Barca Bayern game was really their reputation, where the feel-good factor was sky high under Jorge Jesus. And the matches that followed definitely knocked them back to earth.
Yeah, and how do you think that Jesus will alter his approach going to Camp Nou? Obviously, with Xavi back in situ, is a different vibe to the club completely. They're going to set up in a different way. You could say they'll approach the game differently. So, do you think that Jorge Jesus will tailor his approach as opposed to the way he played at the Estadio de Luz, or what do you think? How do you think he's going to approach it? What formation will he go with?
Right. I definitely would expect Jorge Jesus to go with this 3-4-3, which has been really commonplace since midway point of last season. I would say pretty much the entirety of 2021 he's gone with this 3-4-3. The issue though is, I mean, that switch, you know, obviously he's a manager who tends to prefer more like a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-4-2, but I think that getting in Lucas Verissimo in from Santos in January, you know, left him with no other choice but to go with that 3-4-3 to secure that balance, to get the most out of Julian Weigl, as well as just to make sure that Benfica remains defensively secure. Now, of course, the issue is Lucas Verissimo out for the rest of the season with an ACL, and that is a massive blow for them. You know, Verissimo, I mean, apart from the PSV game where he got sent off like within, I think, 30 minutes in the second leg, he's been pretty spectacular on both ends of the pitch. He's been, you know, superb for them. So that's really one of those blows where I think that it definitely shows, you know how much more important he is, more when he's not playing than when he is playing. And I think that that hole is going to probably be filled by Felipe Morato, young Brazilian defender, I believe 21 years of age. So I would probably expect, you know, if I think that I believe João Mario will be back. I'm not 100% sure, but I would expect a pretty similar team to the one that we've been seeing in the past few weeks, with Nicolas Otamendi, Jan Vertonghen, and Morato as the back three. Odysseus Vlachodimos in goal, and I think wingbacks probably Diogo Gonçalves if he's. I know that Nemanja Randonjic started at right wing back last game, but I would expect it to be Diogo Gonçalves and Alex Grimaldo as the wing backs, Julian Weigl, and assuming he's fit, João Mario in the double pivot, and probably the same front three as we saw against Passos and Braga, which is Rafa Silva, Everton Cebolinha, and Darwin Núñez. But you know, obviously Roman Yaremchuk is another option there. I do think that they'll stick with that. Jorge Jesus will stick with that front three though, because Yaremchuk is more of like a physical option to have, and obviously I expect him to get some playing time, but I think that Rafa, Everton, and Darwin makes a lot more sense if your plan is to like hit on the counter and exploit teams with your with dribbling and pace, because those three players, I think that like it makes a lot of sense, and you saw that against Braga. So yeah, I would probably expect that to be the lineup, assuming there are no injuries or suspensions. I'm not 100% sure who is going to be suspended, if there are any key suspensions against Barcelona. I don't particularly remember, but assuming that João Mario comes back, I know that he didn't play. I don't think he was on the bench against Passos. I would assume that will be the team. Yeah.
And how important is João Mario, do you think, to the way Benfica play? Is he their key player? I mean, obviously Darwin Núñez was very good in the first,
right,
in the game back in Lisbon. Was that just a player having a great moment, or is he kind of contributing at that level throughout his time so far at Benfica?
I think that João Mario has been really important, honestly, for Benfica. You know, I think that I'm not going to necessarily say that Sporting. I don't think that Sporting made a mistake not pursuing him on a permanent transfer, even though he was very important for them, for their title win. But I think that, you know, one man's trash is another man's treasure. I think that's part of what it is. And João Mario, super important. I mean, I think that he provides a lot more energy and off the ball work than Adel Tarabat, who you know, assuming if João Mario were to miss the game, I would assume that Tarabat would be starting over him, you know. So yeah, I think that it will probably end up being I think that João Mario, again, one of those players where you don't really realize his influence until he's not playing. His importance in possession, his importance off the ball just cannot be understated. And I think that Benfica getting him for next to nothing was a fantastic move for them. He just offers you so much, so intelligent in keeping the possession flowing, and really, really intelligent in terms of breaking the lines. And I think that Sporting have missed his presence at times. But like I said, I'm not going to say that they made the wrong decision to not pursue him on a permanent deal, because they wanted to keep their wage bill down, and they wanted to give opportunities to guys like Daniel Bragança, Manuel Ugarte, who they brought in from Famalicão, and of course Mateus Nunes, who is now doing a fairly good job in that position in midfield alongside João Paulinho.
Yeah, absolutely. And Darwin Núñez, how highly do you rate him? How good do you think he has been so far for Benfica? Was his performance against Barca back in Lisbon, was that an aberration, or was it just player in a good moment, or was it actually kind of a genuine reflection of how good he is and has been?
I would probably say it's a bit of both. I mean, I think that Darwin, I think that the Barcelona game definitely showed how good he can be. But then again, so did the Braga game. I think that Darwin, he had a bit of a tough first season in Portugal. Dealing with a new league and dealing with the pressure of becoming the club's all-time record signing. That is not easy. And I do think that some Benfica fans have been a bit harsh on him. He is a young player who he needs a lot to work on, in terms of I would say a lot in terms of possession. He can be a bit clunky, I guess, against deeper blocks, and that's an issue where, especially I remember it was the Portimonense game, right, where he was really a bit how do I put this, kind of making a lot of unnecessary touches, holding on to the ball too often. He definitely needs to work on that, but at the same time, when he's on his day, I mean, he can be really damn good. Physically, he's fantastic. He knows how to run into space and get himself into good scoring areas. And I think that I think that yes, okay. If you think that the Barcelona game is a reflection of how his time at Benfica has been, well, yeah, you're sorely mistaken. But at the same time, Darwin on his day can be that good. It's really just a case of, I think getting that intelligence, getting that working. And also, the thing is, in Portugal, a lot of times you're going to be playing with teams that are going to stack 8 players, right next to the goal, and that's something that Darwin definitely is not used to. He's definitely a lot better at exploiting slower defenders, hitting on the counter. So it's natural that he would struggle. But yeah, I do think that he needs to work on a lot. But I also think that Benfica fans have been a bit too harsh on him and have kind of scapegoated him personally. So yeah.
And knowing Jorge Jesus and his ways and means, how do you think he's going to go at Barcelona tomorrow night? Where do you think he'll pinpoint as the weak spots, the soft underbelly? Where do you think he's going to be kind of, targeting in terms of Barcelona's weaknesses? Although obviously with Xavi just coming in, it's quite difficult to know them because he's only had one full game in charge. But I guess it's the same players, right? So how do you think he's going to set up in that regard with regard to Barcelona, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I don't think that there has been much that's changed under Xavi, which is normal. I mean, he's only coached one game, and frankly, I mean, Barcelona were extremely lucky to win that game against Espanyol. So I think that you target the same weaknesses that you targeted just 6 weeks ago. The defense. I think hitting them on the counter, that's going to be a really important thing for Jorge Jesus, exploiting that, because I do think that is probably the biggest weakness in that team. So yeah, I would 100% expect Jorge Jesus to continue exploiting that weakness for sure, no doubt.
Absolutely. And then finally, what would your prediction be for tomorrow night? How do you see things going? Whether in terms of the pattern of the game or the scoreline itself, what would you predict from someone who knows both leagues quite well?
Oof. That is a very tough question. I think it's going to end up in a draw. Benfica, Barcelona. I definitely think there is that new manager bounce that they will have, but at the same time, they are a bit, I would say, a bit more battered with injuries than Benfica are right now. Obviously Benfica are going to be without Lucas Verissimo and potentially João Mario. I'm not 100% sure on his status, but Barcelona are missing a ton of players. Pedri, what is it? Ansu Fati, Aguero, of course, who's probably retired by now. Yeah, Dembele. So he's definitely got his work cut out for him, Xavi. And I think that when you tally up the injuries, you can definitely make the case that Jorge Jesus has a stronger squad at his disposal right now than Xavi. But at the same time, I think that perhaps that lessens the pressure on them. I think that has been one of, historically, over the past 2 or 3 years, has been one of Barca's biggest issues, like having really just not being able to cope with the pressure in Europe. And I perhaps those injuries, and perhaps just obviously having Messi gone, and I think perhaps that will help lower the pressure on them. And you'll have guys like I'm forgetting his name, the Moroccan winger who started and did very well against Espanyol. Abde, I think he is. What?
Yes, Abde, yeah. And Ilias
Abde, right.
Ilias is very
Ilias, right, yeah. Ilias. I thought he did well. But it's the game for guys like him, for Nicolas Gonzalez, Eric Garcia, who I've criticized a lot, but who I think could, if he wants to show that he's cut up for the this is the game to do that. And I think that for guys like him, Gavi obviously, but Nicolas Gonzalez, you're talking about players who don't really have much in the way of European ghosts, who are willing, who know that a new manager is coming in, they've got the trust of the manager, but now they're trying to not just win a spot in the first team anymore, they'll win a starting spot. I think that's something that could honestly play in Barcelona's favor. Obviously, you would prefer to have guys like Pedri and Ousmane and Ansu available, but maybe that can be a blessing in disguise. I don't know.
Absolutely, it's very well set up. To be fair, you got a team, coached by one of the wiliest old veterans, you could say, in the game across continents, Jorge Jesus, and somebody so unproven and untried, and Xavi, both going at it like from different perspectives. So it's going to be a very, very good game. I'm sure we'll all enjoy it, no matter what the result is. Two great European clubs. I hope you enjoy it in Portugal. I hope you enjoy the rest of the Portuguese night. Just before we finish up, I'll include all the links in the show notes, but where can we find you and where can we follow your work primarily, do you think, Zach?
Yeah, of course. You can find me on Zach Lowy, ZACHLOWY on Twitter, as well as Breaking the Lines, BTL, VID on Twitter. Definitely keep an eye out. We've got some awesome interviews launching, as well as some very interesting articles. So definitely keep an eye out for that.
Absolutely. I highly endorse everything Zach just said there. It was a pleasure, Zach, as always, speaking with you. And cheers. Have a good night.
Have a good one, mate. Take care.